Well, welcome back to Him and a History. It's been a little bit since I've been able to put one of these out, so welcome back. And I hope that you will enjoy our inspired hymn today. I know we have all been watching the Ukraine in the past 3 weeks, and whenever I was searching for a song to do, I came across this hymn and I read its story, and I thought this was very appropriate. So we're going to go all the way back to 1617 in Germany. And this is going to take place during the 30-year war in Germany. We've only been watching 3 weeks. And can you imagine a 30-year war? So there is a fellow by the name of Martin Ringhart, and he was a Lutheran pastor in the town of Eilenburg, and that's in Saxony. So let's learn a little bit about the 30-year war. So this is considered one of the most destructive wars in European history. And when they tallied the death toll, and it's kind of a wide varying range, but it is estimated 4.5 to 8 million lost their lives in this. It was actually 20% of Germany's population. And the war went from 1618 to 1648. And what started everything was when Ferdinand II was removed as king of Bohemia. He wanted to impose Catholicism throughout all of his domain and empire. Well, the Protestants said, no way, you ain't doing that, and they rebelled. Now, at the end of the war, what resulted was the Netherlands gained their independence from Spain, and Sweden gained control of the Baltic, and France became a Western power. And Germany got to, all its states were able to determine their own religion. And there was no more power of the Holy Roman Empire. So that was broken. So it was at the start of the war in about 1617 that Ringhart became the archdeacon in his little town there of Eilenburg. And he would endure a lot throughout this war, as would his flock, his people of his church. Some of those things were he had to quarter soldiers in his home. And, and that kind of something to think about is back then, your enemy, the people that you want gone out of your city, are in your home. And they're not only in your home, using up your space, your spare rooms, they are taking from your stock. They're taking your flour, your grain, your cornmeal. They may be taking your sheep, your horses, anything that you had was at their disposal. And so he had to endure frequent plundering of his household goods. And he pastored all of his people during this time. And as the war went on, Eilenburg became a refuge city, and it became overcrowded quickly. The Swedes now surrounded the city. And when you have people coming in from across the borders, what's going to happen? Plague. And so the plague at the city in this time would claim 8,000 lives. And that included taking Rinkhart's wife, some of the councilmen, and it left him as the only pastor in town. And in doing this, he was responsible for the burials and the services. He was doing 40 to 50 services a day for the dead. And in the whole year, he did 4,480 funerals. And the refugees, unfortunately, in the end, they ended up being buried in trenches without a service. I guess that's at the end of the day, there's only so many that you can do. And after the plague, you think that would be enough with the war, but now there's famine. And the famine was so extreme that 30 to 40 people could be seen fighting in the streets if there was a dead cat or a dead bird, fighting over it, just hoping that that would be their meal. And Ringhart, he would give of his meager portions that he had, he would give that all away and only keep the barest of rations for he and his family. And he would even he would mortgage his future income in order to be able to provide for his family. And in all of this, and doing all the funerals, that many a day, the plague, the famine, Rinkhart did not get sick. He was able to keep up his health and keep on ministering. And so now, after the plague has happened and the famine, now the Swedes are holding the town under ransom, and they demand 30,000 thalers. And I looked it up. It's actually 15,000 US dollars, which you can imagine back then in about 1630. This is not going to happen. It was just too high of a demand. So Rinkhart leaves the safety of the city. He goes out to bargain with the general, and he pleads, and he just asks for mercy, and he says, you know, there's no way we're going to be able to pay this. Can you please just remove the ransom? The general, he is not moved at all, and he says, you know, go on back. No, I want my full price. So Rinkhart goes back. He goes to his congregation, and he just falls to his knees in earnest and starts praying. And he asks everybody else to start praying too. And he asks God for mercy, for provision. Well, that general saw him praying, and he was so moved by that. He didn't take away the ransom, but he lowered it from 10,000 to 2,000. So finally, the war did end, thankfully. 30 years. Whew, I can't imagine. And Rinkhart, he wanted to write a song of thanksgiving and praise to God. And whenever I thought about this, thinking all that you've just been through, you've lost your wife, and your city's been held under ransom. You, you can barely feed your family, yourself. You know, you are just physically and mentally, emotionally and spiritually just worn out from ministering and from trying to do the work of 3 people. After all of that, Rinkhart said, you know what? God deserves praise and glory, and I want to give him thanks by writing this song. And in Germany, next to A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, this is the most widely sung German hymn. And I had to learn it this week because I did not know this before. So I'm hoping I can remember the tune and everything. But listen closely to the words. See if maybe you have sung it in your church. And imagine singing this as a survivor of Eilenberg and, you know, what you've been through. And this is what you're going to sing back to God. Now think we all are God, with heart and hands and voices, who wondrous things hath done, in whom this world rejoices, who from our mother's arms hath blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today. I hope you guys will think about this hymn as you're watching in the Ukraine and realize that there are still ways to be thankful and grateful in a war. God's blessings to you all. We'll see you on the next Hymn in History.